right, so I never go on Facebook, but I went on the other day to add someone from work so we could keep in touch. Randomly at the front of my top of my news feed, I saw this post. A cousin of mine shared this, and it went along with the tagline, many Canadians believe this, or most Canadians believe this, or something like that. And at first glance, this post, it looks like it's just common sense, but it's not. It's a carefully packaged political message pretending to be not political. It's pretty long post, so I'm not going to read the whole thing first, but what I will do is I'll highlight the post, the sections of the post while I'm reading them so that it's clear what's happening or what I'm addressing. I'm also going to cut off the poster's name because who he is isn't really what my point is. I just wanted to talk about this kind of message. This message in particular, I want to break it down. But then also, this kind of message is something that we see a lot. So it's pretty important, I think. So first off, we've got this section. So this is where he starts. He says, "This is how I see it. I'm not saying I'm right. It's just how I feel. I don't usually get into politics, not because I don't care, but because it usually turns into everyone jumping in to argue or finger point or someone bringing up Trump like that somehow matters here." And I'm already tired, and we're just getting started. This is a classic conservative move. They start by claiming they're not political, or just sharing their feelings. You're just using common sense, quote unquote common sense, right? It's a trick. It means you can say whatever you want, no matter how wrong it is. And if anyone points it out, you just shrug and say, well, that's just my opinion, or that's just how I feel. Except feelings don't make lies true or falsehoods true. And the bit about Trump, of course, is just a dodge. When Trump imposes tariffs on Canadian industries, when he's actively hostile to our economy and our workers, it absolutely matters to a Canadian election. He wants to pretend it's irrelevant so that he doesn't have to respond to it, because he knows it blows up a neat little world he's trying to build inside this post. It's not just feelings, it's a political position. He needs to own that. So then he says, but the truth is the next election does matter. Whether we like it or not, it's going to shape what happens to our paychecks, to our businesses, our communities, and our day-to-day lives. And I'm not voting based on headlines, slogans, or whatever buzzword is trending this week. I'm voting based on what's actually hitting me and the people around me, the real stuff, not spin. So, yeah, the next election matters. No shit. Elections have consequences. Thanks for the TED Talk. But notice how fast he moves from elections matter to, and I'm the only one seeing the real issues. Apparently, if you care about the little things like tariffs that screw over Canadian workers, you're just falling for headlines and buzzwords. Meanwhile, he's acting like his personal experience is the only one that counts, and everything else is spin. But he's also engaging in spin. This is the thing that drives me crazy. It just comes from a political angle that he agrees with, so he thinks that's the truth. It's not real issues versus spin. It's people having different experiences, and some of us are capable of realizing the world is bigger than just what's happening to ourselves. So then he moves on. He says, "Let me be clear, I'm not a politician. I'm a working Canadian trying to get ahead, just like a lot of other people. We don't vote for a prime minister. We vote for local MPs, and whichever party wins the most seats forms government. Simple as that. But at this point, I'm not voting for the person on the sign. I'm voting for the party because, let's be honest, they all say the right things during an election." And of course, he's got the "I'm just a working Canadian" routine, except he's not. Later on, he talks about being a small business owner. He's not the guy on the shop floor. He's the guy who signs those guys' paychecks. And if anyone's getting screwed over by the system he's defending, it's probably his employees, not him. And he still wants to cash in on that salt of the earth image while pushing for tax breaks, fewer regulations that mostly help people richer than even he'll probably ever be. And then, of course, there's the civics lesson that nobody asked for. Like, we don't vote for a prime minister, we vote for local MPs. Yeah, we know. That's great. Technically, we do vote for MPs, but when you vote for a party, you're voting for the leader of that party also. That's just how it works. Everybody knows that. Pretending otherwise just makes it easier for you to dodge responsibility when your guy turns out to be a disaster. So he's also padding the post with fake neutrality and trying to sound informed so he can brush off any criticism when people point out that he's backing fascist Milhouse. Then he says, the only thing that matters is the direction they want to take this country. Here's how I see it. The liberals want more government, more spending, more programs, more regulations, and more control. The conservatives want smaller government, lower taxes, more personal freedom, and less interference in people's lives. That's the real difference, not the personalities or the drama, just the different visions for how this country should work. That's what he says. And of course, this is the part where he spells out the big choice, like it's a neat little split between more or less government. And anyone who actually is paying attention knows this is bullshit. Both major parties give tax cuts to the rich. Both push privatization. Both enforce austerity, not on billionaires, but on us, the working people of Canada. And both are perfectly happy to throw immigrants, disabled people, and anyone who's already struggling straight under the bus if it's politically convenient. Conservatives don't give a shit about rights being stripped away from trans people, immigrants, women, or disabled folks. But they somehow find it very important that their local international oil company gets to drill more holes and jack up your gas prices without paying a damn dime back to the public. The real difference between liberals and conservatives are there. They're few and far between, but they're there. And not a single one of them is listed in his little big conservative versus small conservative. Because it's a lot easier to sell a fake choice about freedom and control than it is to admit you're voting for two slightly different flavors of corporate rule. And then he says, I'm also tired of all the noise, the constant social debates, the overreach, the political circus, whether it was straws, pronouns, or plastic bags, all that stuff already got more airtime than it ever deserved, while real issues were buried. We're juggling groceries, sipping through soggy paper straws while being told we're saving the world, but the real problems still haven't been solved. People are struggling to afford groceries, gas, insurance, and housing, and instead of fixing the core issues, we're handed distractions and announcements that don't fix the basics. If we really cared about the environment, we'd build clean energy, fix our broken recycling systems, and hold polluters accountable. Not add taxes or ban plastic bags and call it a victory. All right. There's a little bit in here. So first of all, I can't believe we're still talking about paper straws and plastic bags like it's 2021. I don't even remember the last time government or media talked about this at all. This is just something that he's put in here for himself. Pronouns do matter. I don't know why he chose to bring up pronouns, but they do matter. Maybe not to someone whose gender lines up with the assumptions that society makes about them. But if you're trans or non-binary or don't fit neatly into a box that's labeled cis, pronouns aren't a joke. They're your identity. They're part of your survival. And okay, so then he says social debates. Well, what are we supposed to be tired of with these social debates? Are we not supposed to talk about the targeted attacks on trans people? Are we not supposed to talk about the number of people murdered by police? What about inequality or violence or injustice? Like, are these social debates that we're not supposed to talk about because they're not the real issues? Because it seems like people being murdered by police are pretty real issues to me. He says he's tired of the political circus, but he's the one playing team sports here. He's picked a side. He's pushing a particular narrative. He's demanding that you pick his team too. Because that's how this post is written. And no, real issues were not buried. Inflation was front page news through 2023 and 2024. There's talk of the housing crisis, grocery prices, corporate greed. Lots of people are talking about this stuff. But pretending you're struggling with groceries because of a ban on plastic straws or because of paper straws being imposed or brought in it's not just wrong, it's dishonest. And when we talk about real environmental solutions, clean energy, real recycling reform, holding the actual polluters accountable, it's the Conservative Party. It's their leaders and it's their supporters who shut it down every single time. Every attempt to fix the climate crisis is either too expensive, too complicated, or hurting the economy, according to the exact same conservative politicians and party operatives who cash oil and gas checks for donations and then cheered on deregulation every chance they get. It's not that people don't know what the real problems are. It's that the people in power, the ones he's backing, are actively making it harder to solve them. So yeah, we're juggling grocery bills. It's not because of soggy straws. It's because billion-dollar corporations are price gouging the hell out of us. And conservative politicians are going along with it. And when I say conservative politicians, I include liberal politicians in there. Because, and I might talk about this in a whole other video, liberals are conservative. but we'll have to touch on that another time. So then he's got this section where he talks about taxes. He says, let's talk about taxes. We're taxed in every direction. Income tax, sales tax, fuel tax, carbon tax, property tax, payroll tax, import duties, business fees, you name it. And what do we get? A healthcare system that's falling apart, roads full of potholes, wait lists a mile long, services that are getting slower and less reliable. Meanwhile, millions of our tax dollars are sent overseas and burnt on consultants, flashy pilot programs, and photo ops. Look, I'm not against taxes. I believe in paying our fair share, but I expect something in return. But when taxes go up and services stall, money's wasted, and priorities get skewed, that's when people lose faith, as we should. So this is, of course, he's got to list every single tax that he can think of. Like he's got the secret code to tax. Income tax, sales tax, fuel tax, carbon tax, property tax, payroll tax. Yep. We live in a society, and services cost money. It's part of the system that exists. The real scam isn't that we're taxed. It's that the state demands more and more from working people, and while protecting the wealth of billionaires and corporations that actually run the show. It's not taxes versus no taxes. It's the system is designed to extract from us while delivering as little as possible in return, propping up private profit and calling it public good. You want to know why healthcare is falling apart? Look at the provinces. Conservative governments slashing funding, underpaying nurses and doctors, privatizing care, turning healthcare into just another market to be exploited. You want to know why roads are crumbling? Why services are slow? Because public infrastructure is only maintained when it props up business interests, not when it serves people. And the millions overseas line, of course. That's nationalist bait. Canada's entire foreign aid budget is a drop in the bucket, but it's easier to sell you rage against poor countries than to explain why corporations barely pay taxes while you're left paying 30% of your income or more. The truth is, no government, liberal, conservative, or otherwise, is interested in running a system that actually serves working people. Taxes aren't the problem. The state serving capital instead of communities is the problem. But if you keep people angry at the idea of paying for anything, they'll never realize who's actually stealing from them, or who supports that theft. The old leftist line says, if you think taxes are theft, just wait till you learn about profit. So he says, they say they support small business, but it rarely feels like it. We're the ones creating jobs, paying staff, collecting HST, and keeping things moving, and yet we get buried in rules, red tape, and surprise costs, while someone else who does nothing gets a handout. There's no reward for working hard anymore, just penalties. And this is what it is. It's boss talk, right? Like this is where you know he's not a worker, he's an owner. He's quote unquote, we're the ones creating jobs, paying staff, and collecting HST. That's not the voice of a worker. That's the voice of someone who profits off of other people's labor and wants to be congratulated for it. And then when he complains about red tape and surprise costs, you can pretty much bet he's the kind of guy who thinks safety regulations, fair wages, and basic worker rights are an unfair burden to him. He's probably anti-union too, because nothing ruins a boss's day like workers having actual power and protection. When he talks about handouts, I suspect he's not talking about corporate bailouts and subsidies. I suspect he's talking about poor people, about people on social assistance, or people facing homelessness, and framing them as freeloaders because they can't climb out of a system that's designed to crush them. That's the truth buried under all his talk about hard work and fairness. He doesn't want a system that works for everyone. He wants a system that rewards bosses, punishes the poor, and calls it meritocracy. So then he says, so yeah, I'm voting, not because I believe anyone's perfect, not because I think any one party has all the answers, but because I've lived through the last 10 years. I've seen the direction we've been heading, and I want something different. Not asking for much, just a fair shot. A system that works, a government that respects the people who actually keep this country running. Because I believe in this country. I believe in working people. The ones building businesses, raising families, showing up every day, and doing things right without asking for a handout. There's that handout again. I grew up believing if you work hard, you get ahead. If you want something done right, you do it yourself. And you judge people by what they do, not by what they say. Not what they say. So, of course, he's got this sentiment built into this. It's all about hard work, doing it yourself, judging people by their actions. It sounds nice and noble, but it's 100% bullshit. Hard work was never the method for getting ahead under capitalism. It's not built to reward effort. It's built to reward ownership, exploitation, and inheritance. The people at the top didn't claw their way up there. They didn't build their fortunes on sweat and sacrifice. They profited off the labor of others. They inherited wealth. They bought influence. And when that wasn't enough, the system bent itself to protect them through laws, policies, subsidies, and handouts aimed upwards, not down. And all this do-it-yourself stuff is pure individualist fantasy. Nobody survives alone. Every single thing worth building, families, communities, movements, anything that lasts, gets built together by the people, not alone. Acting like rugged individualism is the path forward just feeds the myth that if you're struggling, it's because you personally failed, not because the system is designed to chew you up and spit you out. And the idea that he judges people by what they do, not what they say, clearly a lie. These kinds of posts are full of silent judgments, not based on action, but on appearance, on poverty, on disability, who's deemed deserving and who's not. It's not about what people do, it's about who they are and whether they fit into the little box called hardworking, grateful, uncomplaining, which is the only kind of Canadian he believes in. This is not a belief in working people. It's a belief in a sanitized version of our country. I even say our country. That's not how I see things. But he believes in this bootstraps mythology and good old down-home claptrap about self-reliance, while the system keeps grinding people into dust. So then he also says, back when I worked in the corporate world, I used to say all these meetings and nothing ever changes. I said it as a joke, but truthfully I meant it. We spend more time talking about problems than actually solving them. Stop talking, fix something, then move on. This country has had enough meetings, enough panels, enough announcements. It's time to actually get something done. So now we get the story about how back when I worked in the corporate world, nothing ever changed. Yeah, of course not. Nothing is ever going to change. Corporations aren't there to fix problems. They're there to maximize profit. But he's not telling this story because he actually wants change. He's telling it because it sounds good. It lets him pretend that he's frustrated with the system while backing every policy and party and the parties that keeps the system running exactly as it is, or who want to make it worse. He doesn't want a government that solves problems. He wants a government that steps aside, lets corporations do whatever they want, no regulations, no protections, no accountability. His fake cynicism isn't aimed at power. It's aimed at anything that limits power. Stop talking, fix something, and then move on sounds like a really tough talk. But when you look at what he's actually defending, it's not fixing anything. It's not making it it's not doing anything for the people. It's just making it easier for the powerful to exploit everyone else without having to sit through more meetings. So then he finishes off. I know what the last 10 years felt like, and I know which party was in charge. I just hope the next 10 feel different and better. You don't have to agree with anything I've said, that's okay. But if I gave you something to think about, even just a little, then maybe we're starting to focus on what really matters and tune out all the other noise. We all get one vote. Let's make it count. Please like and share if this resonates with you. And now, of course, this is the last emotional push, right? This is the appeal to populism, I guess. So he says, I know what the last 10 years felt like, and I know which party was in charge. I know. But you can't ignore global crises, global economic crises. You can't ignore that there was a pandemic. You can't ignore that provincial governments slash healthcare, educational, social services into the ground. You can't just blame one party and pretend it would all be better if your team was in charge. He says, I just hope the next 10 years feels different and better. Well, sure, everybody hopes things get better. But voting for the same system under a different brand name isn't hope. It's just choosing who gets to manage the decline. And of course, he's got the fake open-mindedness. He says, you don't have to agree with everything I said. That's okay. Except we already know that's not okay. Back at the start, he dismissed concerns about Trump. He brushed off social issues as noise. He framed anyone who cares about more than just taxes and deregulation as falling for buzzwords. He made it clear from the beginning, if you disagree with him, you are part of the problem. That "it's okay" line isn't real openness. It's just a shield to wave off any criticisms without having to engage with. He says, okay, if it gave you something to think about, even just a little, which means if you think critically, you'll agree with me. And if you don't, you must not be thinking hard enough. This isn't a conversation. It's a sales pitch. And then, of course, the like and share if this resonates. Because at the end of the day, that's what this is all about. We're all trying to reach somebody. We're all trying to get our team to be with us. It's about building allegiance. But for him, allegiance to a system that chews people up and spits them out, and to the politicians who are going to make it worse. So anyway, that's the end of the post. It's got a Canadian flag on it, and it says we all get one vote. Let's make it count. And of course, it's a beautiful scenery, but it's garbage. It's a garbage post. And maybe you're wondering why did Corey waste his time with this? Why even bother with some random post for some random guy on Facebook? It's not because of him. It's because it's of this kind of post. I kind of said it at the start. It's wrapped in this common sense language, pretending to be apolitical, while he's pushing a clear partisan agenda. And this isn't new. This kind of thing is everywhere. And while a lot of people with strong critical thinking skills can see through it, these kinds of posts aren't meant to convince people who already think deeply. Not that people who fall for it don't think deeply, but they're meant to reach these people. They see something that's wrong with the world. They know deep down that the powers that be, those in charge, are holding us back from creating a community, from being a society where we take care of each other. But they haven't been given the tools or the background or the theory, I guess you could say, to name what's happening. They're not stupid. They're not bigots. Well, maybe some of them might be, but they're not all raging bigots. And but they are vulnerable to this slick, scientific-sounding manipulation that right-wing politicians and pundits have mastered. The same way that a scam artist can target desperate people with fake miracle cures. And yeah, of course, everybody has prior biases that make that easier. It's easier to fall in line with a story that tells you the status quo needs a tweak, rather than one that asks you to imagine tearing down the system and building something better together. But I do believe in people. I don't believe in the capitalist structures we're trapped under. I don't believe in the hierarchies that tell us the best we can hope for is a slightly nicer manager. But I believe in us, in communities, in showing up for each other when the systems that are supposed to protect us don't. Vote if you want. I'm not anti-voting. We only each get one. Do what you want with it. But if you want real change, you can't do it from a ballot box. You have to work with your neighbors. You have to talk to your coworkers. You have to build community. You have to care about the people around you and do something with that. Outside of the actual noise, outside of the team sports politics, outside of the scams, outside of the systems that were never built to save us in the first place. That's what we can do. All right, so I'm going to do the same thing, though, to some degree. If you found this helpful, if you just get sick of seeing like these nonsense posts that are filled with bad framing and misinformation and half-truths, maybe you can share this video. Maybe you can like it. Maybe even subscribe and help people get some of the theory that me and my other co-hosts and guests have talked about in the past. Subscribe on YouTube. Check us out on Spotify. It's The Skeptical Leftist everywhere you go. So thank you very much for watching, and have a good one.